What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Special video today because we got the knife out. And when the knife's out, you know what that means. We got a new camera, baby. Let's do it. All right, so here we go. This is the new camera. Can you guess what it is yet? I feel like some of you are probably just itching right now, being like, why doesn't he just show us the goddamn camera? Well, here we go. I'm gonna open it up. You ready? 1, 2, 3. This is the new camera. This is my new Canon P. And of course you can see that here I've got my Canon 7. The reason I got this P is specifically because of the 7. I love the 7. I love the Canon rangefinder style. I love how this feels. It's nice and dense. This Canon P is basically the same, but there's a couple key reasons why I went and bought this. First and foremost is the cold shoe. This actually might even be a hot shoe. I'm not totally sure, but the point is I needed a space up here in order to mount a light meter, because I am testing a couple light meters now that actually go on top of the camera, but also I'm used to using the Sekonic, which is one that I point and I have to pull it out or wear it around my neck. With this, it's gonna be on the camera, should speed up my workflow a little bit. So this one does not have a cold shoe, as you can see. It's a beautiful camera, but it's missing the cold shoe. The second reason I bought this camera is that my Canon 7 right now is having an issue. Well, there's two issues. First and foremost, the rangefinder is not calibrated. And of course, I can get that repaired. So that's not really why I bought this camera. The real issue I bought is that this is actually having some problems with the shutter speeds. At 1/1000th of a second and potentially at 1/500th of a second, sometimes the shutter is inconsistent in terms of how it goes across the actual aperture inside the camera. And what ends up happening is my photos will have like a dark spot or a bright spot depending on how I expose it. But it's not even, it's not one exposure across all the way. It only happens on the fastest shutter speed. And I could tell this because when I went to Spain, specifically in Valencia, I was shooting a lot in the super bright sun with ISO 400 film. So I was shooting at 1/1000th of a second often. And it became very clear that there was a problem at that shutter speed. So that was basically the last kind of push that I needed to go ahead and jump into the Canon P. So let's actually talk about the Canon P. And I actually sourced this camera from Japan. Japan has a massive selection of Canon rangefinders, including the 7, the P, and some of the other ones as well. Do you trust Japan? I do, but you always need to kind of take everything with a grain of salt. Try to find a buyer that has a lot of good reviews, and also find one that does returns and that kind of stuff easily, because you never really know what's gonna happen. I bought my Pentax X7 from Japan and ended up needing to get it repaired. I was able to recoup the cost from the seller, but ultimately it was still annoying to have to go get it repaired. So anyways, I got this from Japan. It took, let's see, I ordered this last week on Tuesday perhaps. It took about 6 days, and it didn't come with the fastest shipping, which is why it took that long, but it was still pretty fast based on this experience. But anyways, this camera, I'm very excited to use it. I don't think it's as beautiful as the Canon 7. I mean, you can look at them side by side here, but it is a little bit smaller because it doesn't have this big light meter, built-in light meter, and that's nice. I like smaller cameras, but it still has the same kind of feel, nice textured back, a lot of hard metal here, which is just amazing. They don't make cameras like this anymore, you know what I mean? But other than that, everything else is the same. The mount is the same as this camera, so I believe this is M39 mount, which is the old Leica screw mount. So I'm gonna take my Jupiter lens off of there. And for many of you asking, this is Jupiter 35mm. Everyone swears that this element right here causes problems with the camera, and I've never had any issues with my 7. I don't know why people ask me that, honestly, because apparently it's a thing. But anyways, gonna mount this on there, and that'll be kind of the final fit, and then we can look at the camera and talk about what I'm gonna do with it. So this is always the hard part with the screw mount, to get it to actually catch. And let me just try to figure this out. Of course, now that I'm on camera doing this, it's gonna be harder than usual. But all right, let me just cut to the part where I'm done with this. All right, so that took me a little while. It was actually very frustrating, but it looks like the thread in here is potentially not as smooth as my Canon 7. So I really had to hold the lens in a very particular way. Immediately though, I noticed one quick difference, which I actually was not expecting at all, but the focusing now on this Jupiter lens is a lot tighter. It's still smooth, it kind of flows properly, but I really got to give it a little bit more strength in order to actually rotate it. When it was on the Canon 7, that thing rotated a lot more easily. So it's very interesting. Honestly, I don't have too much experience with rangefinders outside of this one, and therefore I don't really know a lot of these like potential things that could happen. But either way, now that the lens is mounted on here, This feels really good in the hand. I really like kind of how it looks and holds and weighs. It's very similar to the 7, which I have right here, but I think it's a smaller form factor, so I kind of appreciate that. Let's see, if we stack them on top of each other, you actually see there's definitely a difference there. And I'll get up close there so you can see, but ultimately you shave off a few millimeters on the side, and then from a height perspective, you definitely shave off a few millimeters as well. Not a massive difference, but you know, I think it makes enough of a difference from an experience perspective. So anyways, very excited to use this. The rangefinder patch is super bright when I look through the camera. The lines are more kind of defined. You can tell that this camera was a bit of an upgrade from the 7 in terms of some of the key functionality. I don't really use the rangefinder often because I do street photography with this, so it's all zone focusing. You know, I walk around and I see my scene, and I'm constantly moving the focusing like this, and then just about composing. So, you know, the rangefinder is not that important, but if I want to use this for some portraits or just kind of confirm for some slower shots where I have time and I can compose and focus, then it's nice to have. But I need to test it to see if it's actually calibrated properly because these cameras are old, so who knows. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. Anybody here listening have had experience with the P? Tell me in the comments. I think it's a very popular camera, but it's a very kind of like underrated, untalked about camera. I think both of these are the same way. You know, everybody loves Leicas, obviously. I've heard from a few people, especially some like older people who, you know, theoretically have some more stronger kind of evidence for their opinions. But a repair guy that I talked to once told me that the Canon 7, this one specifically, is just as good, if not better, than the Leicas of the same time period. So I'm assuming the P kind of can take some of that as well. But, you know, I have Leica money, I got plenty of money, but I'm just not gonna spend it on that just because I don't think I'll be using the camera. If I buy it, it's an investment, something I can hold and maybe sell in the future if I need to. I wanna buy cameras that I know I'm actually gonna use. And given the price point of this camera, you best believe I'm gonna use this camera because I'm not gonna be afraid of breaking it. If something happens to it, I get it repaired or I buy another one. You know, I'm not really afraid. If I had a Leica around my neck, I'd have to be a lot more careful, and that might impact my shooting style. So it's just something that I know ahead of time, so I kind of make my decision based on that. But I'm very excited to use this, and I'll definitely be making another video going a bit deeper, talking about the actual mechanics of the camera, kind of how it works, and a bit of a review, of course. You know, everybody loves reviews. All right, y'all, that's what we got for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're as excited as I am to use this camera. But yeah, tell me down below what your thoughts are about the Canon P, because I don't really know too much about it other than a couple things I've seen here and there. All right, y'all, I'm out. Peace. Fuck.